when he was still a child, the moment that started everything. Dane triggered all 4 relics at once, their power answering him. It happened during the sacred selection ceremony before the clan. The scene froze the hall, stunning every witness present. Everyone knew that even the most gifted heirs of the family had only ever awakened a single power in their lifetime. Yet Dane awakened all 4 at the same time without hesitation. That level of talent had never existed in the family history. Every member was already frighteningly talented by any standard. Dane's father stood as the strongest spearman in the empire, a warrior whose name carried weight across the entire realm. His mother was known as the empire's deadliest assassin. His sisters ranked among the academy's finest mages, and summoners whose contracts set records within the school. Each of them hoped Dane would walk the same road they chose. Now even his father shared the shock seen on every face. One truth was clear: Dane would need training in all 4 paths. That choice would define the future of the boy named Dane. He was destined to master spear, shadow, magic, and summons. What none of them knew was Dane carried a past from another empire. In his former life, he was Argric, a quad-core knight of Drennic. He lost his parents at birth when war tore his homeland apart. His mother died in the chaos, leaving him alone in the world. He grew up with nothing guiding him except survival itself. Steel became his teacher, blood his constant companion. At 14, he was sent straight into the brutal front lines. There, his mana core awakened, and his growth exploded rapidly. He climbed fast, mastering 4 cores and stunning seasoned soldiers. He stood on the brink of becoming one of the Empire's elites. That rise ended abruptly when fate turned against him. On the battlefield, he confronted Duke Thermion of Altheon, a fearsome Hexa-class knight counted among the Empire's 6. His blade shattered under overwhelming force. A fatal strike pierced his chest and dropped him to the ground. With that blow, his dreams and ambitions were erased. Fate twisted again, granting rebirth within his former enemy's land. He returned carrying the will of a warrior who had already died once. Years slip by as the world moves toward a new chapter. The story resumes inside a vast training hall. There, the sharp rhythm of weapons colliding fills the air. The figures are Dane and his father, and the boy already looks taller and steadier than moments ago. Arkan smiles wide at his son, pleased to see the technique he taught executed clean and sharp. Dane thanks him, and we learn the child has now reached the age of 7. As they share a light laugh, a new presence steps into the training space. The man pauses, studying Dane with clear interest. In his hands, a spear is revealed, its form catching the light. It is clear Arkan has been waiting for this moment to happen. Without hesitation, he takes the weapon into his grasp. He passes it to Dane as a birthday gift, explaining he could not wait for the banquet or his wife's turn. Arkan adds that the spear took 2 years to prepare and was forged by a master in the capital. He finishes by wishing his son an early 7th birthday with pride. Dane drops his worn practice stick without a second thought. He grabs the spear eagerly, saying he wants to use it because it feels amazing. The black grip and silver head draw his eye, and the weight feels unexpectedly light. His father asks if he likes it, and Dane answers without hesitation that he loves it. Excitement takes over, and his hands begin moving before training even starts. Arkan asks if Dane understands the real difference between a sword and a spear. Dane explains that the spear's reach keeps enemies away more effectively. He adds that its focused point allows strong force with minimal contact. Arkan agrees, but warns that as strength grows, spears become harder to master than swords. He explains spears require proper distance to strike, and every weapon carries limits, even swords. Dane listens closely, nodding as he says he will remember that lesson. Arkan spins the spear smoothly and invites Dane to spar so he can demonstrate. Dane freezes in awe as overwhelming power flows from his father for the first time. After gathering strength, Arkan drives the spear forward in one sharp motion. The air near the spear tip bends slightly under the force. He explains the distortion comes from releasing magic through the thrust, focusing it at one point. Dane mentions hearing this from his sister, explaining how more cores push human limits. He reflects silently, knowing his former life and quad core hold this same knowledge. Arkan smiles proudly, noting his son studies well, and reminds him he now has 6 cores. Dane acts surprised, while thinking that, without death, he could have reached that stage too. His father urges him to finally test the spear himself. Dane hesitates, feeling the weight of expectation. Arkan tells him to calm his mind, release doubt, and thrust naturally. Dane agrees, steadying his breathing. He tightens his grip on the spear shaft. Memories surface of a past life where spears never interested him. Swords once defined him, spears only tools, but now this path begins anew. He sets his stance carefully, feet firm against the ground. Dane closes his eyes, ready to move. His father studies the stance closely, noting the balance and control in Dane's posture. A wide smile spreads across his face. This technique took him 7 years, and his son is still so young. The moment Dane drives the spear forward, everything changes. The air cracks as if reality itself fractures. Every expectation his father held collapses. This outcome was never imagined. Shock hits him hard, and he blurts out questions, desperate to know how his son understands so much. When Dane finishes, his father steps closer, laughing in disbelief and praising the execution. Dane explains calmly how he condensed magic into one point, infused the spearhead, then cut the flow. Hearing this, his father loses composure and blurts out a question about forming a mana core. Dane answers yes, claiming books inspired him, hiding the truth of mana-breathing practice. His father kneels to meet his eyes, pride swelling as he envisions a remarkable future. Dane smiles quietly, already planning surprises, while his father wonders if all paths await him. Night descends, marking the true beginning of Dane's 7th birthday. Guests begin filling the castle halls from every corner. Music rises as laughter echoes through the decorated chambers. The celebration surges with energy as everyone enjoys the moment. Duke Bout arrives, the same man who ended Dane's past life, and greets Arkan warmly. He waves off titles, reminding Arkan of their bond, a Duke of the Thermian house. Arkan whispers about watching eyes, but Bout dismisses it and asks about his son. Arkan calls Dane over, instructing him to greet Duke Thermian properly. Hearing that name, Dane's memories surge, replaying his final battle in silence. When Dane steps before the Duke, his expression stays composed. He introduces himself clearly as Dane Sagris. He bows respectfully, stating it is an honor to meet him. The Duke laughs, praises his manners, and asks if he trains with spears. Arkan confirms. At that moment, a young girl approaches Duke Bout from behind. Dane pauses briefly as his gaze meets hers. The girl greets Count Sagris with practiced confidence. She bows politely, introducing herself as Layla Thermian, youngest of the duchy. With introductions done, the celebration flows onward without pause. Music continues as guests mingle freely. The evening remains elegant and calm. Yet Arkan and Bout remain troubled, as Baroness Thermian's illness shows no cure. Arkan hopes this hardship will pass and his friend's wife will recover. Bout warns that sudden departure means her condition worsened, forcing a return to the capital. Still, the night belongs to Dane, who has slipped away unnoticed. Bout finds the boy clever and seeks him. Arkan realizes Layla vanished too. They are easy to find, walking together away from the noise. Their quiet conversation stays hidden from watching parents. Alone. Layla speaks freely, admitting noble parties bore her, but this one felt worthwhile. Layla had heard countless rumors about Dane's looks, yet under the moonlight he seemed even more striking, and she truly liked this quiet place. Dane smiled, hearing that. Explaining this land was calm and peaceful, unlike the capital's constant noise and pressure. That peace was exactly why Layla felt envy. Her home never rested, with nobles visiting daily and even imperial figures appearing. What she hated most was being forced into formal clothes each visit, when she wanted simple gear and sword practice instead. Dane felt surprised that such a small and gentle-looking girl trained with a sword instead of magic. He admitted he loved his quiet territory as well, far calmer than the capital's restless pace. The silence gave him time to train with his spear, something he deeply enjoyed. And Layla recalled his father's famed title. Seeing his dedication, Layla assumed he planned to enter the academy just like everyone else. Dane's answer caught her off guard, since that was not his true reason. For Layla, Intense training to reach the academy was obvious, especially with how hard entry was said to be. Dane said he never doubted entry. He trained only to surpass himself once inside. His confidence shocked Layla, so she asked what he would do if he failed. Dane replied calmly that failure would not break him. He would simply try again. If the second try failed, he would accept it was not his path, a mindset Layla could hardly believe. She asked if disappointing his family worried him, but compared to his past life, this meant nothing to him. Even after years among nobles, Dane found their fear of failure petty, and he believed Layla would succeed. Hearing his encouragement, Layla brightened instantly and eagerly offered to show her sword skills. Once the idea of practice appeared, nothing could stop her enthusiasm. She rushed to ask for the training ground, and Dane followed, hoping things stayed calm. At the training ground, Layla held nothing back and focused fully. Her sword moved again and again with confidence built through long practice. To beginners, her form seemed flawless, but Dane's eye was far more experienced. He noticed her smooth transitions and excellent timing between offense and defense. Still, after some time, her rhythm slipped and the flow weakened. Breathing hard, yet pleased, Layla asked his opinion, and Dane first praised her performance. Layla accepted the praise happily, clearly proud of herself. Dane then chose honesty, deciding not to hide his true thoughts. He explained she had room to improve, especially after the third form. Extra half-steps repeated later caused her later forms to lose alignment. The critique left Layla silent, struck by the realization. Dane worried he went too far and began apologizing, doubting his own judgment. His concern faded when Layla steadied herself and tightened her grip. Understanding her flaw, she repeated the forms again, now perfectly aligned, his advice completing the missing piece. Overjoyed and grateful, Layla suddenly hugged Dane without restraint. Dane tried to resist, but her grip left him little choice. She was amazed by his insight, promising to remember help her teachers never gave. She finally released him, nearly crushing him, then swung her sword far too close. That energetic girl clearly needed discipline in neatness. Dane was stunned by the sudden affection, though he did not dislike it. Their privacy ended as servants shouted nearby, so they returned to the banquet together. That choice ensured they were not discovered while lingering near the training ground. When they returned, Dane stood at the center as his parents announced his birthday and first manticore awakening. As expected, a gift followed the formal congratulations. It was a brooch bearing the Sogris crest, matching those worn by his sisters. His mother told him to cherish it, as the brooch marked his honor and standing. One by one, the guests offered praise, accepting Dane as a true Sogris destined to follow his father. Dane's parents watched the scene with deep satisfaction. Dane felt the same warmth, something he had never known in either lifetime. Without warning, the hall began to tremble. Panic spread as guests shouted, fearing disaster or an attack. Dane tensed, but his father quickly calmed him, assuring there was no danger. Arkan Sogris understood immediately, though he had hoped for a peaceful day. Dane remained completely unaware of the reason. Lightning flared near the ceiling, crackling with raw magic. A portal tore open above the startled crowd in an instant. Confusion deepened as no one could process what followed. A small figure burst from the portal mid-air. She ignored gravity entirely and landed without difficulty. It was Arabella, Dane's older sister, convinced she arrived right on time. Guests stared in disbelief at teleportation cast by someone so young. Opening even a minor gate normally required 5 chains of mastery. Dane felt more annoyed by her noise than impressed by her power. Before calm returned, a massive shadow crossed the sky. A wyvern descended with a rider, as Lady Claire startled the hall next. Her mood was sour, having arrived just moments after her sister, as she landed firmly inside the grounds. Whispers spread about her talent, none expecting wyvern control at 16. At last, both sisters had returned home. Together they faced their parents and brother to offer birthday wishes, all directed toward their cherished younger brother Dane. After the entrances, the sisters rushed forward, pushing their gifts into his hands. Dane thanked Arabella and Claire for returning despite their demanding studies. Duke Arkin nearly teared up, remembering his daughters once sent only letters. Dane opened Arabella's box to reveal a ring that functioned as a dimensional pouch. She personally designed the artifact for him. Its subspace magic reached the highest chain, applied by her revered professor with great difficulty. Arabella gently took his hand, sliding on the ring she crafted to endure a full subspace. She also bound Dane's genetic code to the artifact. That binding ensured only Dane could ever use it, making it truly unique. Lady Lily examined the ring and sensed refined mana flow, proof of top-grade magic stones. Arabella explained that Dane only needed to send a trace of mana inside the ring to form the subspace. It surpassed common dimensional pouches in convenience, making it an artifact of rare value. Dane remembered such tools appearing only among wealthy commanders and elite mages on battlefields. The ring would grow with him, adapting naturally, and when Dane infused mana, a green portal opened. Duke Arkin froze in disbelief at how easily his son succeeded. Claire, Duke Bout-Thermian, and Layla stood stunned by the clean surge of magic. Dane opened the subspace faster than Arabella had years ago, proving undeniable genius. Achieving both a mana core and mage circle together would shake magical doctrine. After the display, Claire stepped forward and handed her gift to Dane. Dane accepted it carefully, thanking his sister with sincere respect. Inside the box rested a strange egg cushioned by soft cloth. Confused, Dane lifted it, and Claire panicked, warning it was no ordinary egg. Curiosity spread instantly through the watching family. Claire leaned close, revealing its nature only to Dane in a whisper. It was a familiar egg, obtained by chance during a summoning attempt, its outcome unknown yet priceless. Dane imagined what kind of bond this mysterious egg might bring. He knew familiars differed from summons. Once called, they remain permanently. Claire insisted he keep it secret until hatching, and Dane gave his word. Their hushed exchange irritated Arabella, who felt excluded. Claire instructed Dane to feed the egg mana morning and evening to mark him as master. Lily felt only joy, seeing how deeply her children cared for one another, with gifts complete. Duke Arkin cleared his throat and addressed his daughters, realizing their oversight. The girls awkwardly greeted their parents at last. Arkin, soft-hearted with family, let the matter pass easily. He was simply relieved to see his daughters healthy after long absences. Layla watched the Sogris family's loud warmth from a distance. She quietly compared it to the colder atmosphere of her own home. Dane noticed her gaze and turned toward her. He saw her expression dim as she slipped away silently. He wondered why loneliness clung to her amid celebration. The banquet ended, and a new morning arrived. Duke Bout-Thermian stayed overnight and walked the Sogris lands at dawn. His thoughts returned to Arabella Sogris and her striking talent. As the Academy's top mage, her mastery stood unmatched. She seemed a fitting match for Thermian's son, the Academy's finest swordsman. A union between their houses could rival even imperial power. With that in mind, Thermion resolved to discuss engagement with Arkin. While heading to meet him, he caught the sound of steel from the training grounds at dawn. There, Dane trained alone, refining his spear with deadly focus. Years of harsh training under his father and relentless discipline had already forged Dane into a combat-ready fighter. Dane's focus was absolute, his movements sharp and fluid, cutting through imagined foes like a seasoned warrior. He drove his body harder, pushing speed and pressure beyond his usual rhythm. His arms became a blur as rapid spear thrusts poured out in a relentless sequence. Duke Thermian's curiosity pulled him closer, watching the boy train from a hidden distance. What he saw surprised him deeply, the youngest of House Sogris training with frightening intensity. With veteran eyes, he saw polish far beyond age, the movements lacking any childish hesitation. Even basic thrusts were honed to extremes, refined enough to teach battlefield spearmen. When the final sequence ended, Dane finally paused, breathing hard but steady. Duke Thermian stood stunned. What he witnessed felt unreal yet undeniable. He recalled old rumors of Dane's talent since infancy, once dismissed, now fully confirmed. After a brief rest, Dane resumed training without hesitation. This time he focused on steps, balance, and precise movement. As a master swordsman, Thermion noticed footwork resembling advanced sword techniques. He began suspecting the boy had absorbed swordsmanship far beyond casual exposure. Dane sensed a presence, raised his spear, and warned the watcher to step forward. Duke Thermion revealed himself, caught off guard by a child's awareness. The more he recalled Dane's movement, the more familiar it felt, like a memory resurfacing. He stepped out fully and apologized for observing the private training session. He explained there was no ill intent, and knowing it was Thermion, Dane softened, though 7 years had passed in this body. This man was still the one who ended his previous life. Remembering his lessons, Dane Sagras greeted the Duke with formal respect. Thermion admitted being captivated by the early training and apologized again. Dane accepted calmly. The Duke found the boy's composure amusing, speaking without fear or excess humility. Observing closely, he saw no trembling or strain, a body far beyond expectations for his age. He praised Dane's stabbing form, noting Arkan's influence and the spear's fine craftsmanship. Dane thanked him formally for acknowledging his technique. Thermion smirked, impressed by both the boy's lethality and social precision, compared to his own son at 7. Dane stood far ahead, stirring new thoughts of alliance. Casually, he mentioned Layla's sword training, suggesting they support each other at the academy. Dane replied politely. Pleased by Dane's conduct, Thermion prepared to leave without further interruption. Yet before stepping away, he asked one lingering question about whether Dane had trained with swords. Dane slipped, old habits surfacing, and Thermion noticed instantly. Dane answered that he only read basic sword manuals without formal instruction. The Duke still sensed something deeper, a trace of battlefield awareness. Reason told him such instinct could not exist in an untested child. Finally satisfied, Thermion departed, and Dane respectfully saw him off. The Duke invited Dane to visit the capital someday, his interest firmly awakened. Dane wondered briefly if that man still remembered the one he had slain before. The thought of surpassing the man who ended his former life stirred his blood. Steady preparation would make it possible. Defeating Duke Buthermayan in this life had already become one of his clear goals. Lost in training, Dane forgot time entirely until the attendant Hernan came to retrieve him. Hernan always lingered unseen, watching quietly and ready to serve at any moment. Sensing Hernan's presence, Dane judged the man talented enough for stealth and assassination. The estate buzzed with preparation for the second banquet as nobles began arriving from afar. His sisters had already opened a teleport gate back to the academy due to upcoming exams. It was now Dane's turn to wash up and prepare himself. He planned to inspect his sister's gifts later. For now, servants cleaned and dressed him. Dane entered the family hall with his parents and greeted arriving nobles. Etiquette lessons came into full use as he endured polite conversation all night. He was constantly presented as the birthday host. Every gaze in the hall eventually found its way to him. At last he slipped outside to breathe. Noble life felt exhausting under such attention. Thankfully, the garden always offered him quiet comfort. Mr. Gardner had shaped the garden into a peaceful sanctuary through years of care. Flowers bloomed vividly as butterflies drifted between colors. Dane recalled his sister explaining that flowers held dense natural mana, sparking his curiosity. He closed his eyes and focused on the ambient flow of magic. Slowly, he grasped the concept, sensing mana within the flowers for the first time. Training across many paths left him uncertain where to focus his time. Too much talent became its own burden in moments like this. After several minutes immersed in the garden's mana, he finally saw it clearly, a powerful flow hidden within fragile petals. If one could claim this natural flow, it could shape a magic circle within the body. That process had already begun, aided by his natural affinity. Dane perceived what others could only barely sense. One quiet moment sharpened his mana perception dramatically. He stood on the edge of understanding true magic. Then something suddenly shattered his focus. Nearby, 2 noble children wandered into the garden, bored by the banquet chatter. The older red-haired boy stomped across the flower beds in frustration. Flowers were crushed beneath careless steps, lost in the maze-like garden. The siblings noticed Dane standing still. Judging his clothes, they mistook him for a servant and shouted orders. Dane did not tolerate the brat's disrespect. The boy even demanded Dane guide them to the exit. Seeing the ruined flowers, Dane shouted for them to stop trampling the plants. Dane questioned why they ignored the paths, but the red-haired boy only grew ruder. As expected, the nobles began boasting their lineage, waving their family name like a shield. Dane ignored it completely, seeing only two brutes trampling his garden's flowers. Angered by the insult, the red-haired boy grabbed Dane's collar, boasting he was Count Tyron's son. The name Count Tyron stirred an old memory from Dane's previous life. Tyron was a captured noble after a humiliating battlefield defeat. Loud, arrogant, and unpleasant. Watching the son now, the phrase like father, like son felt painfully accurate. The boy bragged about his house's influence, threatening Dane with disappearance if he spoke again. Dane had met many like him before, empty heads that words could never reach. The brat swung his fist toward Dane, still believing he was bullying nothing more than a servant. Dane answered instantly, slamming his head forward into the boy's face. The strike landed cleanly, crushing the nose with brutal precision. The younger brother cried out in panic. He rushed to his brother, who collapsed onto the ground from the blow. Seeing blood on his hand, the boy panicked as if wounded for the first time. Rage flooded him, and he screamed threats of killing Dane. Amused by the threat, Dane stood firm and invited him to try. The older brother charged blindly while the younger tried uselessly to stop him. Another punch came, and Dane stepped back with ease. The fight was completely one-sided, Dane far beyond an amateur brawler. As the boy exhausted himself, Dane noted sloppy footwork. No combat discipline at all. That suggested magical training rather than physical combat. Punch after punch missed, never touching Dane once. Blood kept flowing as the boy's patience collapsed. Dane toyed with him, controlling distance through refined movement. An idea formed, drawing on the mana flow he sensed earlier. If shaped correctly, that force could be condensed into a physical strike. This fight was the perfect test. The younger brother watched in stunned silence. Dane rooted himself and gathered mana into his hands, shaping raw force. He released it straight into the boy's abdomen. The impact hurled him across the grass, cracking stone as he fell. He screamed, pride and body both shattered. The younger brother rushed to the fallen figure among ruined flowers. Dane cared more for the damaged flower bed than the boy's condition. Still, the red-haired noble refused to stay down. He stood again, wounded pride burning, demanding Dane's identity despite warnings. Drawing mana inward, he began forming a dark summoning portal. Dane recognized the pattern immediately. Summoner magic. Mana twisted and gathered, taking shape as something began to emerge. A translucent wolf slowly descended, its form phasing into view above the ground. The beast radiated menace, sharp fangs bared, eyes fixed with predatory intent. Red Bastard burst into manic laughter, naming his summon Genpu, revealing himself as Digron Tyron, eager to teach Dane a lesson. Dane heard the order to be torn apart but felt unimpressed, the wolf lacking presence after seeing Claire's far deadlier summons. Digron stayed back as Genpu leapt forward toward the unmoving Dane. Dane met the wolf's gaze calmly and did not step aside. Genpu sensed something dreadful awaiting if it continued the assault. The wolf abruptly spun away, its aura shifting as hostility toward Dane vanished. The Tyron brothers froze in disbelief as Digron's prized summon rejected him. The once fierce beast now acted obedient, almost deferential, before Dane. Digron shouted orders to kill Dane, yet Genpu ignored him, tail wagging happily instead. Feeling no threat, Dane gently patted the summon's head. Even he did not fully understand how events twisted this way. Thinking back, Claire's summons were always friendly to him. Even her wyvern treated him playfully. This time there was no blood tie, yet the summons still showed affection. Either Dane held extreme favor with summons, or Genpu's loyalty to Digron had collapsed. Digron could not process it, having never heard of a summon defying its master. Dane pressed the advantage, taunting Digron to step forward. The younger brother begged Digron to stop and accept defeat, but he refused. The fight needed to end for the younger one's sake. Overcome with fear, The poor kid lost control, frozen in panic. The child cried as Daigron lashed out, while Dane coldly pointed out the castle bathhouse. Daigron seized the excuse to retreat and flee the scene. As he left, he barked orders for Dane to remain in the garden. Dane watched with disgust as Daigron abandoned even his own summon. Dane stayed behind, calmly testing his growing understanding of mana. He attempted a technique Claire once taught, sensing the fading link between Daigron and Genpu. He severed the remaining connection cleanly. Then he carefully rewrote the bond using his own mana, without formal summoning. Dane formed a contract, relying solely on his affinity with summoned beasts. In that moment, Dane truly became a summoner, as he absorbed the success. A familiar, irritating voice called out nearby. Daigron Tyrant had summoned his father, accusing Dane of bullying him in the garden. Plugging his bleeding nose, Daigron complained about being struck and losing control of his summon. Mogard Tyrant stepped forward, naming himself head of the Tyrant Counts, demanding answers about his son. Dane did not retreat, standing firm and admitting his actions openly. He noted Mogard looked far heavier than before, peace having softened a once disgraced warrior. Mogard postured aggressively, declaring he could not ignore harm done to his children. He continued pressing Dane with questions, demanding his identity. Dane lifted his head, unflinching. He steps forward and states his name with weight. Dane Sogris. The room goes quiet. The youngest son of Archon Sogris, ruler of the South, heir of the Sogris Count House. The reveal hits like a royal decree. The shameless father and son freeze in shock. They crossed the birthday host without knowing it. The rising star of the South stood before them. The Duke reels, stunned by a sudden clash with the youngest son of House Sogris. His mind flashes back to war shame, captured by Argric, mocked by every noble present. He smells leverage now, plans to crush Count Sogris with scandal and claim mining rights. The bloated schemer faces Dane, asking if he is the birthday boy. Dane nods calmly. Rage simmers under his skin. He never came to honor some noble child. He points at Daigron, demanding how Dane will repay the disgrace dealt to his son. He accuses Dane of harming a guest and stealing a summon. Daigron echoes every word. Threats follow fast, claiming this is Dane's last day. Count Sogris will hear of it all. Dane listens, then says one thing first. Daigron must apologize before anything else. Fury erupts. The fat noble rants while Daigron clenches his jaw in silence. Dane stays firm, says the injury was self-defense. His life was threatened. Genpu chose him. Daigron snaps back instantly, swearing Genpu would never leave, calling Dane a liar. The father pauses, recalling rumors of a summoning prodigy in House Sogris. Suspicion grows. The argument drags on. Words circle. Tension thickens with every exchange. Dane feels the weight of boredom. This whole scene grinds his nerves. At last, Mogard slows down, his jaw aching after endless shouting. He declares the scolding over. They will hear Count Sogris judge this matter, as if summoned by fate. Footsteps approach. Count Sogris arrives, Duke Thermion at his side. Mogard and Daigron stiffen, shock written across their faces. Their disbelief deepens when they recognize Duke Thermion standing there. Night settles as the red-haired boy speaks, claiming he was lost with his brother. He spins his tale freely. Dane stands behind him. Unfazed, his father listens. Count Sogris values truth and family honor. He weighs right and wrong without bias. When the story finally ends, the boy claims Dane struck first, mocked him, stole his summon, then attacked again. Mogard steps forward next, saying he only meant to issue a warning. He insists summon theft is unforgivable. That point cannot be ignored. Count Sogris responds calmly, refusing judgment without hearing both sides. He adds that Duke Thermion will weigh in to prevent any unfair ruling. The Duke smirks lightly, saying he can oversee it if needed. Mogard sweats, dread creeping in. Thermion's presence spells trouble. Count Sogris signals his son to speak freely. Dane steadies himself, ready. He says Daigron's story twists the truth, though parts are real. Dane explains the garden flowers were trampled. He warned Daigron. Anger sparked the fight. The heavy truth lands hard. Mogard freezes. His son panics and shouts that Dane is lying. The Count raises a hand and calmly orders Dane to keep speaking. Dane explains Genpu was commanded to kill him. He adds Genpu chose him willingly. The Duke watches closely, stunned by the calm logic and refined speech of a 7-year-old. Dane repeats firmly that he never stole any summon. Mogard snaps, stomping in place and calling the entire explanation nonsense. He argues a summon cannot obey a non-summoner, accusing Dane of dirty tricks. Dane answers evenly, saying his natural affinity lets distant summons answer him. Mogard rejects it outright, while Dane states simply that it is true. Mogard scowls deeply, dismissing Dane as a child inventing stories. The Duke intervenes, saying the truth can be proven with a summon. Count Sogris asks Dane if he can prove it. Dane agrees without hesitation. Mogard glares at Daigron, furious he caused this disaster. Daigron trembles, knowing failure will bring his father's wrath. Daigron attempts to summon Genpu under everyone's gaze. Nothing happens. His father explodes in anger exactly as expected. Dane smirks inwardly, knowing the bond was already severed. Dane offers his own proof, saying he needs Daigron's summon sign. Daigron erupts in protest, ranting about Dane's nerve and authority. Count Sogris cuts him off, stating the test poses no risk by their own claims. Mogard sweats heavily, then orders Daigron to hand over the sign. The red-haired boy nearly breaks down, hands shaking. His father snaps at him to move faster. Dane takes the sign and begins the summoning calmly. He explains summon signs bear unique code names and reject other users. Genpu was filled with Daigron's mana. The sign only served as a medium. Dane calls Genpu forth. The summon manifests instantly. The creature presses close, licking Dane's cheeks without hostility. Both the Count and the Duke stare in open amazement. Mogard and Daigron shake as their lie collapses. The Duke remarks how impressive it is, wondering about Dane's other training. Count Sogris confirms spear training, admitting even he lacks full knowledge. Mogard realizes his scheme has completely backfired. The Count turns coldly, asking if Mogard accepts Dane's truth. Mogard laughs nervously, admits a misunderstanding. Daigron nods weakly along. Dane burns with anger watching them dodge responsibility. Before any final ruling can be given, a woman steps into the courtyard. Her arrival sends a ripple of shock through everyone present. Dane freezes, eyes wide as he recognizes Layla. The moment she steps in, she states firmly that Daigron's story is false and misleading. Her father asks why she is here. She explains she heard his voice while walking, then greets Mogard and Count Sogris politely. Mogard freezes and stammers as he returns the greeting, shaken by the sudden appearance of the Duke's daughter. Count Sogris wastes no time and asks her directly why she claims Daigron lied. She answers with confidence, confirming she overheard everything during her walk earlier. Daigron stiffens as panic sets in, realizing she heard the entire exchange. She calmly lays out the full sequence of events she witnessed. Dane can barely hide his grin, the turn of events clearly favoring him now. After a pause, Mogard orders his son to apologize at once. The Count redirects him to apologize to Dane instead. The chubby noble pushes his son forward without hesitation. He urges him to apologize immediately. Daigron hesitates, then mutters a weak apology, but Dane remains unimpressed. The apology rings hollow, clearly forced after his lie collapsed under witness testimony. Dane considers refusing, but recalling his past life, he chooses restraint and grace instead. With a measured nod, Dane accepts the apology. Daigron brightens instantly and thanks him repeatedly. While Mogard exhales in relief, Duke Thermion observes quietly, thinking Dane truly is exceptional for choosing patience over pride. Count Sogris declares the matter settled, since Dane accepted the apology. Still, he makes clear the act itself will not be ignored, as Daigron attacked with lethal intent. Mogard breaks into a sweat, but the Count silences him and orders his family expelled immediately. The command shatters Mogard's composure. Exile now would destroy his standing completely. He grabs the Count's hand and begs desperately, promising anything for forgiveness. The Count pulls away without hesitation. He states firmly that he has no use for Mogard, and soldiers will escort him out. Dane leaves with his father as Mogard begs behind them, voice cracking. Count Sogris tells Duke Thermion it is time to depart as well. The Duke calls for his daughter and follows. Dane glances back briefly as they walk away. Satisfaction settles in. Consequences have finally caught up with them. Dane notes how terrifying his father can be when angered, then confirms defeating Degron with mana. The Duke praises Dane's talent in combat, summoning, and magic, while his father smiles with pride. Dane absorbs the praise quietly as Layla struggles to process it all, the Duke admiring his composure. Count Sogris pats Dane's head and credits Layla for preventing escalation. Duke Thermion is surprised by the Count's high regard for his daughter. He seizes the moment to hint at marriage, startling Sogris with his enthusiasm. Sogris swiftly changes the topic, noting the banquet is approaching. He excuses himself and hurries off toward the hall. Thermion tells Layla to walk back slowly with Dane. He rushes after the Count, eager for a private discussion. As they walk, Layla asks why the summon obeyed Dane. He admits he does not know. It simply happened. Layla pouts in frustration, sensing Dane is hiding something, yet he stays calm and reminds her he helped her too. He brings up the moment he assisted her sword practice when she struggled. Layla recalls it and reluctantly admits he has a point. Dane decides mutual favors can continue, telling her she may ask him anything. Her mood flips instantly, excitement flashing as she says she wants to learn now. Dane pauses, surprised by her urgency, and asks what she wants to learn. She answers without hesitation, asking him to teach her the mana bullet. Dane asks why she wants it so badly. Layla says she wants strength fast, aiming for 2 mana cores before the academy. Dane questions her rush until she admits she wants to grow strong for her mother's sake. Hearing this, Dane recalls rumors of Countess Thermion being confined to bed. Realizing her resolve, he knows he cannot refuse her. Layla spins happily, declaring she is ready to train tomorrow or even tonight if possible. Dane sighs and says she can start any time, assuring her the technique is not difficult once mana flow is understood. Layla eagerly asks what he wants in return for teaching her. Dane falls quiet, making it clear his request will not be simple. The scene shifts to the banquet hall filled with hushed whispers. Guests murmur about Count Tyron being expelled from the castle. Some say his eldest son caused trouble by fighting young Master Dane. Laughter spreads as nobles enjoy Tyron's humiliation. Word circulates that Dane is an exceptional summoner, raising questions about House Sogris. Others add that Dane can use magic as well, leaving many doubtful. A mustached noble introduces himself as Baron Opent, asking Dane about his eastern lands. Dane answers politely about grilled trout and sapphires, earning a hearty laugh. The Baron proudly pushes his daughter forward. He admits he almost forgot to introduce her. She introduces herself as Sylvia Opent. Dane stiffens and nervously returns the greeting. Sylvia suddenly steps closer to him. She leans in with a grin and whispers about him inheriting House Sogris. Dane stumbles over his reply as Sylvia bluntly declares she will rely on him from now on. At that moment, Layla arrives while Sylvia still holds Dane's hand. Sylvia stiffens, sensing competition immediately. Layla glares sharply at Dane, demanding to know who Sylvia is. Sylvia greets Layla warmly, introducing herself as Baron Opent's eldest daughter. Layla responds stiffly, her smile strained despite polite words. Their smiles clash, thick with unspoken hostility. Dane senses danger, recalling memories of similar tension. Layla grabs his hand, saying she is borrowing him due to a prior promise. She glares, asking if he remembers. Dane cluelessly agrees and excuses himself to Sylvia. Sylvia forces a smile, saying they will speak again soon. As Layla pulls Dane away, Sylvia watches, clearly irritated at losing him. Layla still has not cooled off, clearly upset at Sylvia daring to pull Dane away. Her sharp stare rattles him as he realizes even a duke's daughter can be outmatched. Compared to the Eastern Baron's girl, Layla loses momentum fast, making Sylvia's retreat unsurprising. Once outside, Layla interrogates Dane about Sylvia, asking if an engagement is possible. Dane denies it firmly, saying they only exchanged greetings. Layla brightens instantly, her mood flipping so fast Dane can feel the shift. After a short walk, they reach the hidden spot only Dane knows, a place safe from interruptions. The moment they step inside the secluded area, Layla bursts into a joyful dance, delighted by the quiet beauty around them. She relaxes, relieved no one can see what they do here. Dane agrees, calling it ideal for training. Then asks if she has ever sensed mana. Layla admits faintly and mentions breathing it in. Dane realizes she is not yet at the omission stage. Surprised a ducal house taught her this much. He chooses a simpler approach, saying the first step is sensing the mana she draws in. Seeing her confusion, Dane explains control comes before release. Imagination matters most. He tells her to close her eyes and picture mana swirling inside her body. She tries, but nothing happens, her expression showing she missed the point. Layla tries again, focusing harder. Still, nothing changes. Frustration builds and she complains, asking why it will not work. Dane reassures her calmly, saying this is normal for a first attempt, urging focus. Nearby, Count Sogris secretly watches the two of them. Pride fills him seeing his son teaching already, despite his young age. It confirms to him that Dane has truly matured. Suddenly, Duke Thermion appears behind him, startling Sogris with a sharp question. The Duke waves it off, telling him not to panic. He jokes about watching lovebirds. Sogris questions the claim and asks how he arrived. Thermion laughs, pointing out Sogris hid poorly, especially with an assassin wife. Caught outright, Sogris struggles to respond. The Duke teases him, warning that peeping lords invite rumors. Sogris snaps back, saying he followed his son. The Duke laughs and admits he followed his daughter. Both fathers prove equally hopeless. They stand together, watching like reckless youths spying beyond a school gate. Back with the kids, Dane opens his dimensional pouch, drawing Layla's fascination. He mentions his eldest sister made it recently as a gift. Layla feels a twinge of jealousy. Her brothers ignored her after joining the academy. Dane pulls a mirror from the pouch. Layla asks casually what it is for. Dane says it might help. He explains a mirror aids imagination better than empty thought. Dane tells her to stand before it and observe herself fully. Layla steps into position quickly and begins her mana-focusing routine once more. This time, Dane senses her resolve is far stronger. Lilia draws a steady breath, focusing hard, while nearby eyes quietly track her progress from the shadows. Both doting fathers squat low like conspirators, the Duke noting Lilia warming to Dane. Sogris asks if that is true, and the Duke says it is rare for her. Sogris wonders aloud if that makes sense, since Lilia always seemed cheerful and clever. Duke Thermion pauses, then admits her brightness is only surface deep. Inside she carries weight he cannot ignore. He explains that once her brothers left for the academy, her mother fell ill and remained bedridden, leaving Lilia isolated, unable to open her heart as before. Sogris asks why. Knowing this, he still treats his daughter with such cold distance. Thermion admits softly that he does it on purpose, even if it pains him. He recalls spoiling his sons endlessly, watching them grow arrogant from excess affection. Sogris warns him not to project that fear onto Lilia. She would be hurt if she knew. Suddenly it becomes clear why she sought Dane's help instead of her own father. Thermion points accusingly, joking that Sogris still lectures him, while Sogris counters that truth deserves saying. Changing topics, the Duke asks when Dane will go to the capital, offering full welcome at the ducal castle. Sogris falls silent at the question. He looks back at his son, sees his happiness, and says he will honor Dane's wishes. Dane may choose his own path, just as his sisters did. Miss Sogris watches the two fathers quietly from afar. She looks embarrassed by their obvious spying and lack of restraint. Yet after a moment, she smiles softly. She accepts that parental love twists even the proudest hearts, and chooses not to interrupt. Back with the children, Lilia thanks Dane sincerely, calling him a true genius, admitting she feels inferior. Dane glances around to be sure the fathers are gone, then reassures her this is only her beginning. She asks if he plans to attend the academy, where all imperial prodigies gather. Dane says he is unsure, believing strength can be earned through solitary training alone. Lilia scolds him gently, explaining the academy builds factions and bonds beyond study. Dane is impressed by her insight, realizing she understands how the world truly works. He admits knowing this already, but says he still has much to learn at home first. Lilia agrees, then asks if he does not want friends his age, noting his sisters attend the academy. Running out of excuses, Dane says he may go someday. She invites him to visit her house then. Remembering favors, she asks when he will name his request for teaching her mana bullets. Dane shakes his head, saying he will tell her once he reaches the capital. She reacts in disbelief, shocked that he truly plans to go one day. Eventually, the day of her departure arrives. As Lilia's carriage rolls away down the road, Dane studies the stone-like object resting in his palm, a gift from the Duke. His memory returns to the Duke calling it a birthday present, hoping Dane would value it. The Duke explained the Thermian symbols: revenge, sword, and blacksmith. He told how their house began with a blacksmith, forging the finest weapons on the continent. Every Thermian weapon defending the Empire was born from that forge. Dane already knew this history, drawn from knowledge carried over from his past life. That forge holds every known ore across the world, gathered in one place. From it emerge legendary weapons and rare artifacts, unmatched anywhere on the continent. The Duke explains that showing the insignia grants Dane a custom weapon, revealing the stone as a proof of honor and mastery. Count Sogris is stunned, knowing even the imperial family covets such an insignia. The Duke only smiles and pats Dane's head gently. He tells him to grow strong and support his father well. Layla waves goodbye with a smile, and they finally part. Back in the present, Dane's mother kneels beside him, asking if he is sad they left. He admits she was his first friend. She comforts him, saying he will meet her again once he reaches the capital. She adds that he will grow even more handsome by then, surely impressing her. Accepting this, Dane wishes Layla well, knowing their paths will cross again. Meanwhile, the Duke rides in his carriage, his thoughts lingering on Dane. Each glance at the boy stirs old memories. He is reminded of the warrior Argeric, a prodigy who wielded 3 classes at a young age. The Duke believes Argeric could have become a Hexa-class knight had he lived. That is why he hopes to meet Dane again once he matures. Days later, Dane sits alone before the egg. He has fed it mana daily and wonders if hatching is still far off. The egg holds a rare familiar, able to bind with mana even without summoner status. Dane knows his mana quality must align, and many unseen conditions remain unmet. He has heard stories of eggs that never hatch. He hopes this one is different, yet no response follows his mana shifts. After another long attempt, he sets the egg aside, admitting his expectations were rushed. Suddenly, the butler calls out from the gate, asking if Dane is ready. At that instant, the egg trembles and emits a faint sound. Dane rushes back, convinced he heard movement. The butler hurries in as well, asking about the noise. Dane asks him to wait while he checks the egg. Once more, nothing happens, leaving him quietly disappointed. Feeling no change, Dane tells the butler it was likely his imagination. When he enters the training hall, he begins with sword practice. His movements flow clean and precise. The butler beams, clapping and asking when Dane learned swordsmanship. Dane shrugs it off casually, earning praise as a natural sword talent. Holding the blade, Dane reflects on missing sword training while mastering the spear. Relieved his skill remains sharp. Delighted, the butler rushes off and returns with a full tray of snacks. The butler urges Dane to eat something first before resuming his intense training. Elsewhere, Count Sogris stands by the window, staring into the distance in silence. Hosting this banquet year after year has started to wear him down. Still, it showed him how closely the nobles now watch the South. Many seek his favor, drawn by peace, wealth, and climate since the war ended. Their interest was inevitable. Yet, it all fades beside the attention focused on Dane, whose clash with Tyron's son ended far beyond expectations. Calm, clear, decisive, and proven with real talent. Sogris feels his son is far too composed for his age, wishing he acted carefree like other children. As the training hour approaches, he turns toward the training hall. He brings Dragontail along, planning spear practice for Dane today. Stepping onto the grounds, he halts abruptly, sensing something unexpected. Dane is wielding a sword instead. The sight sparks immediate confusion. Sogris suspects Duke Thermian planted the idea. Otherwise, Dane would never swap weapons now. He watches quietly as Dane moves with practiced confidence. Every strike looks deliberate and controlled. The power rival's seasoned swordsman, leaving Sogris stunned by the skill on display. Unable to stay silent, he asks when Dane learned sword techniques. Knowing the truth must surface, Dane admits he never formally learned any of it. The answer only deepens Sogris's confusion, hinting at yet another hidden gift. He lists Dane's talents aloud: spear, magic, summoning, stealth, now swordsmanship. He admits that if not witnessing it himself, he would never believe it. Then he asks if Dane feels curious about the world beyond their land. Dane blinks, unsure where this question leads. His father tells him to chase that curiosity, believing this land is too small for him. Dane feels a quiet ache, realizing his father accepts he cannot keep him forever and agrees to explore beyond. Sogris smiles gently, saying it is time to prepare him for the wider world. He admits the moment is bittersweet, but Dane's will must be honored. He then presents the spear, saying today's lesson holds something special. Dane recognizes it instantly. Sogris confirms it is Dragontail, the spear that answered Dane on his first birthday. He gestures for Dane to take it. The instant Dane grips the shaft, the spear responds. A powerful surge ripples through the weapon. Sogris laughs softly, noting the reaction far exceeds that first time. Given Dane's growth, that surprise feels deserved. With pride, he vows to make Dane a true spearmaster before he departs. He tells Dane that Dragontail will be his someday, once he grows strong enough to wield it properly. Dane answers without hesitation, vowing to train hard and honor every lesson his father gives. Later in his room, Dane lies awake, his thoughts drifting toward the outside world. That curiosity has followed him since his past life, even through endless campaigns. Back then, life meant marching, pitching camps, cleaning gear, eating tasteless rations, then bracing himself for the next fight. The only exits were victory at war's end or death on the field. Those felt like the only paths, but now a peaceful life lies ahead, almost unreal. As Dane, he understands he must seize this chance. He has no idea how the world will use him, judge him, or challenge him. For the first time, the road is open. Travel, discovery, limitless possibility. At first, he wanted to stay wrapped in this warmth. His father's words changed that, excitement now pushing him toward the unknown. Right then, his mother slips into the room, startling him slightly. He asks when she entered. She teases him for missing the knock while lost in thought. She asks if he truly longs for the world beyond, and he answers honestly that he does. He explains his father's view, then apologizes, worried about leaving her behind. She pulls him into an embrace, telling him there is nothing to regret. She says she understands his gifts, and the world would call him eventually. Staying together longer would be nice, she admits, but impossible. So she urges him to go forward and chase his own path. Dane promises that even when he leaves, he will return often and share every story he gathers. She smiles and says it is time she teaches him as well. Dane wonders aloud what kind of lessons she means. She eagerly explains she will teach him everything about assassination. She lists skill after skill, leaving Dane dreading the exhausting days ahead. She sums it up simply: he will learn a great many things. Dane nods, promising to give his best effort. Watching her, he realizes these lessons will be filled with care. Time passes, and the scene shifts to the southern lands of the Altheon Empire, Sogris County, blessed with warmth and rich resources. A region that carried the empire through war and hardship. Under Count Sogris, it flourishes in peace and stability. With the war ended, the last small rebel groups are captured. An era of calm finally settles over the land. On a clear day, townsfolk chatter about young Master Dane visiting a shop. They whisper that the shopkeeper's eldest daughter fainted at the sight of him. Women gossip that he grows more handsome each day, longing to see him once. Rumors say he is still single, until one voice reminds them he is only 14. One woman adds that rumors say Dane does not look 14 at all anymore. They claim he is already as tall as Count Sogris, easily mistaken for a grown adult. The gossip fades. Time to see with our own eyes how much he has changed. The scene shifts to the outer edge of Sogris County, a land saturated with lingering ancient magic. This place is called the Forest of the Last Days. Dane moves through it on a task given directly by his mother, Lily Sogris. A spear rests firmly in one hand. The other grips a folded cloth, Likely directions he already memorized. Whatever it holds, his route is already set. With 3 hours left before sunset, he knows delay means danger. Dane presses forward. He vaults between trees with sharp, practiced movement. The key objective is simple: stay unseen. He must avoid traps set by his mother and escape a forest full of threats. After weaving through the terrain, he drops lightly back onto solid ground. Dane pauses and draws a deep breath. He absorbs the flow of mana around him, then releases it calmly. Blending into the environment, hidden dangers begin to surface.